distinctly this is where it was, and nobody knows the whereabouts. It completely vanished. So the whereabouts of the Hatbox Ghost is to this day a mystery, but I can attest to the fact that I saw it in this very spot originally.
This is the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland Park in Anaheim, California. Over its 50-year history, the beloved ride has conjured up a few myths and legends. But there is one urban legend that far surpasses any other. The legend of the Hatbox Ghost. After years of construction delays and creative revisions, the Haunted Mansion opened on August 9th, 1969. With its creepy atmosphere and cinematic scale, it's no wonder why it left a huge impression. Before the ride opened to guests, there were multiple days set for previews of the attraction. One of these days was dedicated to cast members. They were given 2 hours to go around the mansion. One of these cast members was an ice cream scooper, who would one day become a legendary Imagineer, Tony Baxter. Passing the organist in the ballroom, riders ascended up an incline into the attic. Standing near a window was the beating heart bride. Across from her, Tony had claimed to have seen a mysterious figure. He had a grim smile and a hunchback. In one hand, he was holding a cane. The other, the Hatbox he was named after. This mysterious character would do a small illusion. You would see his head on top of his shoulders. It would disappear and reappear in the Hatbox. And as follows, his head would disappear from the Hatbox and reappear once again on top of his shoulders. He would do this to the sound of a beating heart. Not long after the ride officially opened, Tony would return to the mansion, reliving some of his favorite moments of the ride. He once again reached the attic. He would only find that this Hatbox Ghost he so distinctly remembered from his first ride-throughs had vanished. Haunted Mansion is a popular ride that has grown a large fan base over the years. It will continue to grow with the arrival of different Haunted Mansion websites and discussion boards. These sites would discuss Haunted Mansion trivia, history, and rumors. But there began discussions based on a strange mystery. When the mansion first opened, there was different promotional material for it, and one character stood out. This strange character was featured on a Haunted Mansion vinyl record and its cover.
He was a cloaked figure with an evil, grinning face. A hatbox hung from his hand.
The character also made other appearances, such as this children's novelization of the Haunted Mansion. Some were quick to come to the conclusion this was a scrap character. However, something strange happened. Many people on these forums had claimed to have seen him when the ride first opened. There was an issue with all these claims. Nobody could prove it. There were a few things fans were able to dig up, including reference photos, concept art, and photos of a prototype Hatbox Ghost, but zero photos of the actual animatronic, with the exception of an old episode of Disneyland Showtime that featured an unfinished Hatbox Ghost. For years, this would be the only photographic evidence the figure itself existed. The lack of information only left fans to discuss and speculate about the famous ghost. At this point, Disney had caught wind of the Hatbox Ghost fanbase, and the prospect of bringing him back was pitched around since the late 90s. But every time the idea was talked about, it wouldn't get very far due to reasons we'll discuss later. Rumors began swirling about the return of the Hatbox Ghost for Disneyland's 50th anniversary. The attic scene was going to be reworked to feature a brand new character, Constance Hatchaway, a bride character set to replace the Beating Heart bride. The attic rework would eventually happen, just without the Hatbox Ghost. During this time, a big fig came out of the Hatbox Ghost by WD Collectibles. Disneyland had no interest in selling these, believing nobody would buy them. But after release, they began selling out fast. This figure proved that the character was popular, and most importantly for Disney, he can make money. Then in the late 2000s, out of nowhere, the first and only photo of the Hatbox Ghost was released on doombuggies.com. The photo was taken by Paul Clemens, who was just a child when he took it, as his mother had taken him with her as part of a press preview for the ride. The photo confirms one thing: he was installed in the mansion, but it didn't answer if it was part of the ride when it opened. In 2009, there was another attempt to bring him back. the Haunted Mansion was celebrating its 40th anniversary in a big way. Disney held an elaborate dinner show that included a panel with Imagineers and a small Haunted Mansion themed performance. After, guests were invited to the mansion to watch a cake cutting ceremony and ride the attraction. The plan was to create a replica of the original figure, and a group of Imagineers would camp out in the attic, puppeteering the figure to jiggle and shake. But the project was shot down and never ended up happening. That same year, at Disney's biannual convention D23 Expo, a replica of the Hatbox Ghost was sold at auction, selling for just under $10,000. Just a year later, in 2010, an announcement would be made that wouldn't just spark interest in the Haunted Mansion, but also the Hatbox Ghost.
This chamber has no windows and no doors, which offers you this chilling challenge to find a way out.
At San Diego Comic-Con, famous film director Guillermo del Toro confirmed that he was set to direct and produce a brand new Haunted Mansion film after the disappointing reception of the 2003 film starring Eddie Murphy. The film would have starred Ryan Gosling and would have had the Hatbox Ghost as a pivotal character.
The key element is a figure that is legendary amongst Haunted Mansion fans, which is called the Hatbox Ghost.
Guillermo del Toro is no stranger to the Haunted Mansion. In his home, he has a whole room dedicated to the ride, with a 1:1 scale replica of the Hatbox Ghost, similar to the one sold at D23.
So I had him reproduced life-size because it seemed like the reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
In the time this all transpired, two key pieces surrounding the mystery of the Hatbox Ghost would surface, such as a maintenance card gifted to Tony Baxter.
He is clearly there.
Tony, like many others, had faced criticism, with some believing that he had lied about the Hatbox Ghost. But the maintenance record that he occasionally brings out confirms the Hatbox Ghost was in the attraction when it opened. Another piece of evidence was a recording from a home video by YouTuber Disney History Institute, and their semi-viral video is where many people were introduced to the character. The figure was in the Haunted Mansion when it opened, but only for a couple of weeks. The reason it was removed is that the disappearing head effect never worked, and is also the main reason other attempts to bring back the character failed. Yale Gracie, the man responsible for all the illusions in the Haunted Mansion, and also the man inside the photos with the prototype Hatbox Ghost, made the call to remove the figure. A second Hatbox Ghost was built for Florida's attraction, but never installed. The Disneyland and Walt Disney World figures sat in Gracie's office until they were dismantled and used for parts, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and intrigue that would allow him to gain a cult-like following. He had made a name for himself, yet no longer existed. In 2013, due to creative differences, Del Toro would leave the Haunted Mansion project. That same year at D23 Expo is where the Hatbox Ghost made his return as part of a showcase for audio animatronic technology. Imagineers had dressed up an A100 animatronic figure with clothes they had lying around. They had created a modern and terrifying Hatbox Ghost. Once the expo ended, the figure was never publicly displayed again. The character was used sparingly on merchandise around the parks, but there was still no plans to put him back in the ride, at least for now. Over at WDI, a group of Imagineers had come up with a new way to do the Hatbox illusion. Their design consisted of a clear face mold, so when projected onto it, you would see a perfectly proportioned Hatbox Ghost head that you could turn on and off, achieving the effect. From pieces gathered at Home Depot, Michaels, and other stores, the Imagineers had created a prototype. The effect worked. People from all over the company were making trips to see this working Hatbox Ghost, including high-ranking executives. The project was given funding, and it was decided for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland, the Hatbox Ghost would finally return. Rumors had only begun to spread after the Haunted Mansion reopened from a short refurbishment to remove the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay. Riders were faced with a temporary construction wall, themed with a holographic window. Disney would only add fuel to the fire by coming out with a blog post titled, "What's hiding inside the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland Park?" The article teased something was coming to the mansion, but it wouldn't be until April 10th, 2015, when the rumors would be confirmed.
Breaking news! The Hatbox Ghost is returning to the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland!
They're bringing back a favorite that was there on opening day, but disappeared for decades. It's the Hatbox Ghost.
How long have you been anticipating Hatbox? How long did you think that he was going in?
Because Disney just officially announced that the Hatbox Ghost is coming back.
The rematerialization of an old classic character, the Hatbox Ghost.
The Haunted Mansion closed for 4 days to complete the installation, and the ride would reopen on May 9th, 2015. That morning, guests lined up in front of Frontierland and Adventureland.
Just checking, who's going to Haunted Mansion?
A manager came out in advance to let the crowd know that the Haunted Mansion was going to be delayed.
Just a little while, not too long, just a little while.
Crowds rushed to the mansion and lined up in front of the cast iron gates. People were eventually let in, and they made their way inside. Riders boarded their doom buggies, went past familiar scenes, and once out of the attic, in front of them was the Hatbox Ghost. Outside the mansion, Disney really began to embrace the character.
It appears you are suffering a medical emergency. Please remain calm while I attempt to reattach your head.
Usually I'm worried about dying up here, but looks like you beat me to it!
A couple years later, at D23 Expo 2022, it was announced the Hatbox Ghost was coming to the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, and would be arriving the following year.
The Hatbox Ghost will materialize in the Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World.
In 2023, the Haunted Mansion film, originally started with Guillermo del Toro, had come out with a new director, Justin Simeon. Before getting involved in the film industry, he was a cast member at Disneyland. Something that had survived from del Toro's version was the Hatbox Ghost being a pivotal character. In the film, he's played by award-winning actor Jared Leto, and is the film's main antagonist, haunting the 999 souls of the mansion, looking for one more. The film was a financial failure at the box office, getting low ratings from critics, but scoring high with audiences. About a year after being announced, the Hatbox Ghost had finally made his way to Florida. This version does not appear in the exact location as the California one, but rather on the left-hand side of the endless hallway. This change has mixed reactions, with some believing it's inconsistent with the ride's established story, but others don't mind, and are happy he's arrived at the Magic Kingdom. He started off as a discarded prop from a theme park ride, being kept alive by fans until he was resurrected, and now immortalized in a mainstream Haunted Mansion film. There is one thing for certain: this will not be the last we see of the Hatbox Ghost.